Good.
Shalom all.
Hi.
Shalom, Rabbi Papi. I don't see you though.
I'm here.
I see him.
You see me, but I don't see you.
Yeah, we see you. We see Rabbi.
No, I don't. I'm not something wrong on my end. Then I don't see Rabbi Papi. Well, I'm hearing him, and he's hearing me, but I don't
Yeah.
see. Well, I must be something I've done wrong. Let's see if I can fix it. Speaker, let's try gallery view. In gallery view, I see everybody. I see you, Shelley.
Yep.
Hiya. I see Carol. I think that's Carol. All I see is glasses. Ah, there you go. A little more. Yay!
Now you
Nope.
should see me because I put my glasses on.
No, Rabbi Papi, you I always can see. But Carol, when I usually see her the first time, I just see the top.
So, like I said, I use a cell phone, so
And here comes Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hello,
Hey,
hi
Ricky.
Yehudi.
Happy
Shalom.
Hanukkah to everyone.
Hanukkah Sameach.
Hanukkah Sameach to everyone.
Yep.
Now let's see if I can go back to speaker view. And if Rabbi Papi shows up, yes, you do.
Good.
Okay, we're in good shape. Parshat Miketz, my favorite Parshat Sefer.
Yeah. Although we're going to do something, well, I hope it's fun. Because this weekend, this Shabbat, we have the joy of reading from three Sifrei Torah.
That's
We have
right.
our regular Parashah Miketz. We have the reading for Rosh Chodesh, because Rosh Chodesh is Saturday and Sunday. And we have the reading for Chanukah. So let me start sharing my texts, I should say. So what I thought today we would
That's nice.
do is take a look at the reading for Chanukah.
Okay.
Actually, overall, the reading for Hanukkah. It's there's we're now up to one of the middle days. We're not at the beginning, but it's important to take a look because there's some fascinating details here. I don't know if the details are so fascinating, but what the rabbis did with them was rather fascinating. And we're going to see how they learned lessons from all this painstaking detail and some interesting things they had to say. So we're focusing much more, I would say, exclusively on the drash and not necessarily the pshat. But the pshat here is fairly clear. So just to introduce all of this, um, who would like to read here? It should be visible to everyone on the day that Moses.
I'll read.
Okay, thank you.
On the day that Moses finished setting up the tabernacle, he anointed and consecrated it and all its furnishings, as well as the altar and its utensils. When he had anointed and consecrated them, the chieftains of Israel, the heads of ancestral houses, namely the chieftains of the tribes, those who were in charge of enrollment, drew near and brought their offering before the Lord. Six
Draught carts.
carts and 12 oxen, a cart for every 2 chieftains and an oxen for each one. When they had brought them before the tabernacle, the Lord said to Moses, accept these from them for use in the service of the tent of meeting, and give them to the Levites according to their respective services.
Okay, and then that's what Moses does. He takes the stuff, gives it to the Levi'im, and continue here with verse 10.
The chieftains also brought the dedication offering for the altar upon its being anointed. As the chieftains were presenting their offerings before the altar, the Lord said to Moses, let them present their offerings for the dedication of the altar, one chieftain each day.
And we begin here.
The one who presented his offering on the first day was Nachshon, son of Aminadab, of the tribe of Judah. His offering, 1 silver bowl weighing 130 shekels, and 1 silver basin, of 70 shekels by the sanctuary weight, both filled with choice flour with oil mixed in for a meal offering. 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, and 1 lamb in its first year for a burnt offering, 1 goat for a sin offering, and for a sacrifice of well-being, 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, and 5 yearling lambs. That was the offering of Nachshon, son of Aminadab.
Okay, now we go on.
And on the second day, Netanel, son of Zuar, chieftain of Issachar, made his offering. He presented as his offering 1 silver bowl weighing 130 shekels and 1 silver basin of 70 shekels by the sanctuary weight, both filled with choice flour with oil mixed in for a meal offering. 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense, 1 bull of the herd, 1 ram, and 1 lamb in its first year for a burnt offering. 1 goat for a sin offering and 1 for his sacrifice of well-being. 2 oxen, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, and 5 yearling lambs. That was the offering of Netanel, son of Zuar.
And so it goes on and on and on, through all 12 Nisi'im. Okay, now we're going to take a look at what the rabbis do with this, which is kind of fun. Let me just get the view properly here. Okay, so now when I move things around, it should be visible. And then we just hear exactly what we just read, introduction by Milgram. But now let's take again a look at what our tradition is going to do, because we have all these details and they all seem to be the same, but that's not going to stop our tradition from seeing a little bit more in there. So first of all, comment by Sforno, 2 comments by Sforno, which seem to reflect this, but they do reflect the same idea. Okay. So commenting on the line, Nisiyei Amatot, Hema Omdim Ala Pkudim. Go ahead.
They are the leaders of the tribes. They are those who stand over the counting. Seeing they all occupied official positions, the gift offering each one brought was on behalf of his tribe and its members. Seeing each one was in charge of other people, he felt a sense of some members of his tribe being suspected of some misdemeanor. At the same time, seeing that they did not only represent the members of the tribes, but were princes in their own right, they agreed to stand in the breach to offer offerings to gain atonement on their behalf.
Okay, so basically, what are these princes doing? What are at least what's in their mind? What do they want to accomplish? Not just to bring gifts, but
for the members of the tribes, plus for themselves.
Pardon me?
For the members of the tribes and also for themselves.
Right. So they're bringing for the members of their tribe, but what else do they want to do for the members of the tribe? Not just to bring the gifts, but
To gain
atonement.
Right, to gain atonement in case somebody had done something wrong. And as Sforno uses the great phrase, I can't see it on my text. Yeah. Iskimu la'amod b'paretz. To stand in the breach. This is how we see Moshe standing between God and Israel, standing up for Israel, or the prophets standing in the breach to represent their people. So here, the leaders of the tribes are presenting all of these gifts, not just like they're wealthy enough to present all these gifts, but they are also serving the people. They're going to try and help bring kapara on behalf of those who may have sinned. So, already, pardon me?
Rabbi Poppy, isn't Sforno also trying to explain why the Nisim as a group bring a whole pile of stuff, and then each individual one brings a different stuff, and in other words, there's two different things in the Siyum are doing here. One, as a group, they're bringing a carbon which consists of wagons and whatever, and then each individually brings carbonot which are closer to the animals, but they're also stuff that's going to go as be part of the temple service. And I would assume Sparrow's bothered by to see him have to bring two different sets of things, both of which are called carbon.
Yeah. It seems to be that there is the notion that the Nisi'im are bringing their own korbanot in addition.
Besides, there's a chatat in there somewhere.
Right. But they're also seeing that they're all bringing the same thing. And they seem to be both bringing it on behalf of themselves and on behalf of the people. So, but you're right. They said, like, okay, if they're all bringing the same thing, why do you have to list each one separately? And does that mean they're bringing their own sacrifices? So that is one of the challenging sections of sections. One of the challenging questions of why doesn't it just say, and the Nisi'im brought, or the 12 Nisi'im brought X, Y, Z, and the totals were X, Y, Z? Why does it describe each one bringing the same offering?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
But, you can answer that according to the pshat. You don't have to come up with a draft.
Right. But here we have Sforno already bringing in the notion that, who are these Nisi'im? They're not just bringing offerings. They are deliberately trying to serve their people, trying to amod b'paretz, to stand in the breach, to be the representative. It's almost like the Hineni before Musaf on the Yamim Noraim.
The thing is, when Sparrow used the language "umdu al hapakudim,"
right?
Which he's taking from the text "Haim ha'omdim al hapakudim," But I think it's in the Tanakh as a whole, Omeid al doesn't carry any negative connotation to it, but it does in the later texts. And keep in mind, there's 3 Sidur texts, one of which we're saying right now, where there is a little bit of a Amar alehem hamar harasha. V'chol davar dar omdim aleinu lachalotenu. And right now in Alanisim, Kisha Amar alehem. So it may very well be that the Sforno has a feels in this phrase something a little bit negative, and is, because after all, what he's writing on its face doesn't make any sense at all. The last thing that's going on here is Chashur Ba'avero. It's just the opposite.
Right.
We have gotten to the point where, in my eyes, shot-wise, the Nisi'im represent the most unified situation we ever had in the Midbar from the time of Matan Torah till the time we ended up in Eretz Yisrael under the leadership of Yahushua. We've gotten 2 chapters, both of which have been talking about things that aren't exactly right. Well, the first one is anyway, chapter 5.
So
chapter 6 is offering any person in Israel a chance to basically elevate themselves actively to a Kohen Gadol position, woman or man, for what we traditionally understand as the 30-day period. You should also realize, Rabbi Papi, that the Sfardim, I'm not talking about Nusach Sfard, I'm talking about the real Sfardim. They don't start the reading Hanukkah the first day with Vayihi. They start with Birchat Kohanim. Why? Because the Kohanim were the ones who brought the miracle of Hanukkah. So that's where they start. Okay. And it's very interesting. I mean, you should you have any idea what happens when they read Parshat Naso in a shul? The first Aliyah gets the entire Parsha up to and including Birchat Kohanim.
Oh my God!
From that point on, they get 6 more Aliyot distributed according to the 12 Shvatim.
Remind me never to volunteer for Rishon in
okay, listen, it's like reading the Tochecha, or in Matot Masi, you have an Aliyah which is 72 verses long when they read the 2 Parshiot together. But what I'm trying to say is that you can't get out of the fact that you have the Nazir, then you have Birchat Kohanim, and then you have the Nishiyim, and then you have the Leviyim. There's no ends and buts about what's going on here, according to the plain Pashut Pshat. You know,
Yeah. Although Milgram does have a discussion of, why is this here? Why is this
well, I
portion
think I just explained
here?
why it's here. I know
Yeah.
that exactly. When Mullen writes that, I say to myself, well, then okay, that's the challenge. Let's see if we can answer that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
let's go on with Sforno, pretty much saying a similar kind of idea. Because here he's commenting on the Korbanot, Karat Kesef Achat. His offering is a one silver bowl, etc., etc. Go on, Ricky.
His near offering, one dish of silver, 30 and 100, it's silver shekel weight. Now each one of the princes offered all types of offerings, a burnt offering, a gift offering, a sin offering,
As
as well.
Milgram points out, we probably should understand the Korban Chatat as a purification offering, but that's we're just going to go with the language here.
But Sparrow doesn't see that.
No,
As
and Baruch Levine seems comfortable with the term sin offering. Anyway, let's
Yeah,
go.
there's an argument between Levine and Milgram about that, but most people go with Milgram.
Yeah, go ahead.
as well as peace offerings and incense to dedicate the altar and its serving utensils, except for the guilt offering, because the sin offering and the guilt offering have the same procedure. The Torah tells of each one's offering on its own to teach that each one intended to atone for specific sins that were most prevalent in his tribe, so that specifics of each one's offering would be acceptable before Hashem. Each one performed the act of placing all his weight on the animal
As is
because
Samach Yadav to place his hands. That's just how they translate it here, placing the weight on the animal.
on the animal becoming the sin offering on behalf of the members of his tribe, guilty of sins requiring such a sin offering to atone for their sins.
So Sforno is on one hand explain what is it doing here, who are these Nisi'im, and that they are really in bringing each one of their offerings, there is also the kavanah, the intention of trying to effect atonement for their entire tribe. So, that makes them worthwhile, I would say, as Nisi'im. And that's going to be a theme, a question of like, who were these Nisi'im? We know who they were, but why were these the people who were chosen to be Nisi'im? And now we're going to have a couple of, we're going to have another perspective that we'll see here in Sifrei, the early rabbinic commentary in Bamidbar, and reflected in some other commentators.
They are the they are the leaders of the tribes. They are those who stand over the counting. I might think that they were common people appointed. It is therefore written, the heads of their father's house.
And
Let
before you go on, this is a typical question that they would say, Yachol, or in this case, Shomea Ani. They in the halachic midrashim, they very often ask the question, I might think that, but no, the verse
Ishmael school
teaches
uses Shomeani, and Akiva school uses the Yachol.
Yachol, right? So there are these
And
introductions,
Midbar is Yishmael Midrash.
right? Go ahead. It is
and not
therefore,
only
sorry, and not only you're right.
and not only the heads of their father's house, but the princes of the tribes. Princes, the sons of chiefs. The heads of their father's house were they.
Yeah.
They who were appointed over them in Egypt. Mizah, Exodus 5:14, and the officers of the children of Israel were beaten, etc.
Yeah, so we have a situation. He's identifying these Nisim as the same ones who were beaten. Remember when the Israelites were commanded to bring the same amount of bricks, but then they had to go out and collect the straw first. They weren't even, they had to do twice the work and produce the same amount, and they were beaten. So taking a look at First of all, this is the full text in Exodus, down here in footnote 2.
And they were beaten. The officers of the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's slave drivers had set over them, they said to them, "For what reason have you not finished making your allocation as yesterday and the day before? So yesterday, so today."
Okay, so that's the reference. And this explanation of the Sifra, of the Sifrei, will be picked up as well by a number of commentaries. First of all, Ha'emek Davar. Uh,
Notice he doesn't agree with what was said above, I think, by Sparno. The
yeah,
one of them said in the Siyam are the sons in the Siyam, whereas this one says Shabacharu Bahem Hamatot. I can prove it to the Siyam and not the sons in the Siyam. There are two sets in the Siyam in Sefer Bamidbar. The set that you have in Parshat Maseh, as we're about to go in Eretz Israel, not one of them is the son of one of the previous Nesiim.
right.
They're all basically
They're
people who are
totally different.
chosen. Right. So it's clear that this is done by election, which is really cute because basically, how many times in the Tanakh is an important office appointed, not appointed, elected, rather than Hashem just appoints and then the people ratify? I mean, even Bezalel is chosen by
Yeah,
Hashem.
it's chosen by God. So it's
This is a really interesting thing that he should say that. What Hamek Tavares went from the 15th century?
I don't remember. I thought he was a little later, but I could be
Oh, yeah, it
wrong.
might be Rabbi Popke. I'm just guessing right now.
Yeah, because I think that Lieberman Alava Shalom, everyone would look at Torah Tamima, and he liked Emek Davar because I think he was some relation to Bar Ilan, his fa Lieberman's father-in-law. So, but I don't know. This is
I just wonder where he got that idea. Shabacharu Bahem Hamatot. That's
yeah, but that is a very interesting thing that they chose them. They elected them basically. But again, he makes reference to the idea that they were. Did you read it, Ricky? Did you finish reading it?
No,
No.
I am
Okay, go ahead.
the heads of their father's house. The tribes chose them. In Sifra Bamidbar, they explain that these were the heads who were beaten with nods because of the straw.
And Rashi, yeah, and Rashi makes the same comment, um, both in Bamidbar. Sorry, the exalted leaders of Israel.
Yeah, as soon as it stops moving.
Yeah, sorry.
They were the officers appointed over them in Egypt, and they were beaten on account of them. As it says, the officers of the children of Israel were beaten.
So basically, Emek Davar is just drawing on Rashi, and both of them drawing on Sifrei. But going on, Rashi.
These officers were Israelites.
Sorry. Rashi also expands on the nature of these princes on this verse from Exodus. So going back to the verse in Exodus, Rashi has an extensive commentary there.
These officers were Israelites, and they spared their fellow Israelites, not urging them on to their work. When they handed over the bricks to the taskmasters, who were Egyptians, and something was deficient in the total, they used to beat them because they had not urged on the Israelite workmen. On this account, these officers were privileged to become members of the Sanhedrin later on, and there was taken some of the prophetical spirit that was upon Moshe, and it was placed upon them, as it is said, "Then Hashem spoke to Moshe, gather to me 70 men of the elders of Israel, of whom you know that they were elders of the people of its officers."
Yeah, so the Rashi or Midrash is identifying them as well with the 70 elders. This is the whole story of Eldad and Medad who continue prophesying. Moshe is overwhelmed, and God says, "Here, I'm going to divide up some of the spirit from you to the 70 elders." And then there were Eldad and Medad who kept prophesying, and Joshua's a little upset, and Moses says, "Hey, where that all the people were prophets." So that's where that story is coming from. Anyway, go on.
Of those about whom you know the kindly acts which they did in Egypt, for they're the real elders of the people, having been their officers.
So we have, first of all, the statement of Sforno that, they were worthy individuals because they were capable of standing in the breach and protecting the people. And they were the ones, well, sorry, they let me take a step back. Sforno is emphasizing that they are worthy leaders because they were willing to try and effect atonement for their people. And the Sifrei, Rashi, Haemek, Davar are all picking up on the fact that they were ones who were literally willing to take a beating for their people. So the question behind all of these is who were these Nisi'im? Why are they so special? And Nechama.
Well, having a Savar gives you a perfectly good explanation.
Oh yeah,
In
no,
other words,
absolutely.
yeah, in other words, he feels obligated to bring down a Sifrei because, after all, that's in Tana'itic Midrash. But he obviously is not really basically going along with what Sifrei says. I'm beginning to think that maybe he comes from a country, I'm going to look this up, where, in the military, there are many situations where the soldiers elect their own officers.
Uh-huh.
Well, let me see if I can do some work on this, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I don't
We'll find out what this is all
have it in
about.
front
It's
of me.
very interesting because, I mean, let's face it, Moshe wasn't elected, Yoshua wasn't elected, Shaul wasn't elected. Not one of our leaders were ever elected. And now this guy's assuming that the Nesiim were elected. I mean, he can't. Where in the Tanakh is any high official elected? So, as a practical matter,
Right.
this is saying more about Hemek Davar than it is about the Tanakh itself. But I'd sure like to check this out.
Yeah.
Well, you go on. I'll
Yeah,
check
okay.
it out.
So, but Nechama Leibowitz points out is the Midrash, which is really the origin of a lot of this, and why are our commentators so concerned? We know these are the Nisi'im. Well, how much more do we need to know? Why are they building them up? Why are they presenting them as unique, and particularly pious individuals? I mean, that's a nice thing to do, but Nechama Leibowitz brings out a very important idea that we know from studying Agadah. So I'll finish up with this, Ricky.
We note here how the princes who were the first to come forward here to bring offerings for the tabernacle were identified by our sages with those officers who sacrificed themselves to the wrath of their oppressors in place of their own brothers in Egypt. Good deeds are not forgotten, but remain to bear fruit and reap reward sooner or later.
So she points out that, this is that there's a message here in their commentary. Go on.
In his important study on rabbinic homiletics, Darchei Agadah, Y. Heinemann
Yeah, Yosef Heinemann.
explains that our sages asserted to the common identity of anonymous characters of different epochs in the Bible narrative in order to bridge the time gap and create a closely linked historic picture easily grasped by the reader. This was particularly the case where the sages wished to bring home the lesson of virtue, bring its own reward, however long the fruits thereof are deferred.
Yeah, so I brought this in because Heinemann's work is one of the classic works on Agadah, and it is an important point that he makes that, why are the rabbis always connecting individuals in the Tanakh? First of all, we've talked many times about the flight from anonymity. The rabbis do not like anonymous characters in the Bible. They always try and find some name for them. They try and identify them with some person who is mentioned in the text. But even individuals who are named only once or twice, well, why Dafka are they named? What's special about them? And again, I think she quite correctly points out the desire of the commentators, the Midrash and the commentators, to be complimenting the Nisi'im to say that they were, yeah, they're wealthy, they can bring these gifts, they're bringing the same gift, but it's really not the same because they were they were very much uh, pious individuals who really took their role as leaders very seriously, even to their own discomfort. And Hamek Davar adds this interesting note that they were dafka chosen. Now we know why they were chosen.
I found
Okay.
out the information. You were quite right. Hamek Davar was written by the Nitziv, which is run by a line. And basically, it was published in 1880, and he was the head of the yeshiva in Volozhin. So there's no
Mm,
question he knew that free elections existed in parts of the world, and as close to I mean, at that time they existed in France, okay, and in Switzerland, which wasn't all that far from where he was. So,
right.
as a practical matter, I think what he's doing here is very nice, which is we like to be able to bestow upon our forebears positive things that have been developed in a Western world, which were unknown to our forebears, but just the same. We can stick it in, and that's a really nice thing to stick in. I love it.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into, even more heavily midrash of who are these Nisi'im? Well, we're really just going to focus on one, Nachshon ben Aminadav, and then we'll take a look at, all these numbers of offerings. What do they represent? For the rabbis, these aren't just random numbers or round numbers. They've got to represent something. And this is very often the case in Bereshit Rabbah. They look to later Jewish history and significance for later Jewish history or Jewish thought.
You said
So,
Bereshit Rabbah, but I think what you got there is Bamidbar Rabbah.
Bamidbar Rabbah, yeah, but
Bamidbar
yeah,
Rabbah is a completely different enterprise. It was
right,
written.
right.
It wasn't even Rashi doesn't even know of its existence. The first parshan who knows of its existence is the Ramban. So just imagine, it's probably the latest midrash that we actually have
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. Midrash Rabbah, as it's called and is published together, um, our midrashim on the Chamesh Chumshei Torah and on the Chamesh Megillot, on the five Megillot, and so basically all the texts that we read in synagogue. And but they're all different. They're all from different times and maybe not always different places, but certainly different times, different communities that produce these collections, even though it's called Midrash Rabbah, and the individual works are called, Bereshit Rabbah, Bamidbar Rabbah, Ruth Rabbah, Echa Rabbah, but they're not the same school necessarily. Okay, who would like to continue? Because Nachshon ben Aminadav brings the first one. He's the first one to bring the offering. Who would like to continue?
I mean, I'll do it unless Carol wants to do
No,
it.
it's okay. I'm better off not reading today.
Okay, okay.
Okay, go ahead,
Uh,
Shel.
Nachshon, son of Aminadav, of the tribe of Judah. Why was his name called Nachshon? It is after the fact that he descended first into the wave, Nachshon into the sea.
Okay, before we go on. Well, yeah, no, sorry, go on, sorry.
Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai said, the Blessed Holy One said to Moses, the one who sanctified my name at the sea, he will present first. That was Nachshon, and he did so.
Yeah, so very famous Midrash, that what he entered into the first wave. You have the Israelites who are standing by the shore of the sea. And the Midrash pictures them, and of course, remember the people are come there and they cry out to Moses, and then Moses tells them, wait, you'll see God's deliverance, vatem tacharishun. And all of you just shut up, And you can imagine him looking to God. I always point this out because I think it's hysterical. You can imagine him turning to God because God is like, God's totally in control. God knows what's going on, so he can very easily just simply say, Ma titzak elai. Why are you crying out to me? Daber al b'nai Israel vayisau. Just speak to Israel and tell them to go. And the Midrash pictures it that the tribes are arguing, because they're looking at the raging waters. And one says, I'm not going to go first. And anyone says, I'm not going to go first. And well, they're busy deliberating and nothing's happening. Nachshon jumps in, and that's when the waters part. So Nachshon, you have different projects and programs that are named Nachshon because he was the one who took the initiative and jumped in. He had faith in God that the waters would part. So that's why Nachshon goes first. Go on, Shell. That is what is
That
written.
is that is what is written. Nachshon, son of Aminadav, the first ascribes his lineage to his tribe. Praise for him, praise for his father, praise for his tribe. Or perhaps he collected from his tribe and brought.
Yeah, like, oh, well, so maybe he just took up a collection. And it wasn't like his tremendous generosity, but he took up a collection he just brought from all the members of his tribe. However, go on.
The verse states this was the offering of Nachshon, son of Aminadav. He brought of his own, and he did not collect from his tribe and bring. Then why does the verse state Nachshon, son of Aminadav of the tribe of Judah? The verse ascribes his lineage to his tribe.
Yeah, so they point out the importance of Nachshon, as well the fact that let his family, let his tribe, let them all get credit for it. Although, please understand that he brought this himself. It wasn't asking everybody. So, again, more along the lines of praising the Nisi'im. And in this case, Nachshon ben Aminadav, who is, quite an important figure.
Well,
uh,
are they playing with the name Aminadab too? Because Nadab means,
to
contribute.
give.
Ami means for our people. Now, I just looked at Bamidbar Rabbah right above the point where you're starting from, and it's saying, Lama Nikra Shimon, why was he called Achshon? Al Shem Sheyarad Techila when Achshol Shebayam. Problem is the word Nachshol doesn't exist in the Tanakh. So
Right.
this is sort of playing games, but I mean, Adab, but that's okay. I don't need Nachshon. Nachshon could be related to Nechoshet, which would be basically hard, something hard. If I want to play with that name, I mean, Bamidbar Rabbah, half of Bamidbar Rabbah is devoted just to Parshat Naso. Okay, and most likely that's because Parshas Naso is associated with Chag HaShavuot. So the idea is we're getting the Torah on Chag HaShavuot, and we want to show how much we love it. So we basically devote as much midrash just to this one parsha as we do to the whole rest of the book. So
Yeah. It's also the
I'm
longest
in a scene,
parasha,
they
so it's
go
easy to do that.
nuts. Okay, I mean, in fact, the biggest contribution Bamidbar Rabbah has made is basically what it has to say about the Nisim. Otherwise, it's pretty much bringing down stuff that's from Medrash Tanchuma. Okay, but what it says about the Nisim, that's a creation of its own, and you're absolutely right what you said at the beginning. You want a midrash that takes off from the shot and comes up with a whole new world. I mean, do you know that for Bayom HaShishi they talk about Shisha Imahot? How many midrashim are willing to acknowledge that biologically they were really six? They were really six mothers. But Zilpah and Leah have two shvatim each. We don't ever admit that. We're only talking about Arba Imahot.
Right.
So as a practice, and another what I'm trying to say is, if you pick yourself up in midrash and take a look at Bamidbar Rabbah, you can't help but be impressed by what they've managed to do with this parsha. Excellent choice, Rabbi Papi.
Yeah. And also, just while we're on Nachshon, here's one of our commentators, Ora Chaim, who's picking up something else in the text.
The justification for the letter Vav in the word is found in what we wrote about every offering, consisting of two aspects in our commentary on the word.
Makriv, one who offers, or one who brings an offering close. So in all the others, in all the other destructions, Hamakriv, the one who brings. But in the case of Nachshon, it says Korbano, his offering, Korban,
Mhm.
shelo, his offering, korbanot. So there's a vav on the end of the word korban. No, Or Chaim is just picking up on this, saying, so why is this written differently? Because Nachshon, of course, is different. But it's also bringing up, and he's bringing, he's not dealing with pshat. He's also going beyond the pshat to try and figure out what's going on with these nisi'im. So go on.
It
It is
is,
read again. It is a reference.
yeah, I know. It is a reference to the hidden spiritual aspect of the sacrifice which preceded the Torah's revelation of the material aspect. One may also simply understand the letter as alerting us to the many qualities Nachshon possessed, in addition to initiating the kind of offering the princes brought at this time.
Yeah. So again, he's just emphasizing Nachshon, and I'm sorry I didn't look into his commentary. I'm sure his commentary on the different spiritual aspects of Hamakriv is fascinating, but I was just here, just bringing this in another example of Nachshon. Now, we get into the Midrash, and as Yehudi was saying, the whole other world they create for these Nisi'im.
Another interpretation, ver korbanao, what did the princes see that led them to present offerings in this manner? The rabbis say, even though each of them presented an identical offering, they offered it regarding significant matters, and each and every one presented according to his perspective.
Yeah, so it's not just Nachshon, but all of them. And to some extent, this well, it doesn't echo because Bamidbar Rabbah is earlier than Sforno, but the sense that there's something significant, there's something important for each individual tribe that even though it looks as if all of these offerings are the same, they're really not.
I could translate Lefidato as according to his choice.
According
You
to his
know,
choice. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I just
they
copied
all
the
come up with the
translation. I
identical
didn't
choice.
I didn't go over
Oh,
this as
yeah,
carefully.
I it wasn't. In
No.
fact, I didn't even listen to your translation. I thought you took it from somewhere, but it does make a difference. Bottom line is that what's interesting is they all came up with the exact same choice.
Yep. Okay. Go on.
Nachshon began and presented regarding the protocol of the monarchy, just as his father crowned him over his brothers, just as it says,
And
Judah,
this is in the bracha that Yaakov gives to his children.
Judah, you, your brothers will acknowledge you. Your father's sons will prostrate themselves to you. Judah is a lion cub. Likewise, it says, for Judah prevailed over his brothers as the prince would come from him.
As we know, Judah becomes the tribe of the king, certainly the kings in the south, and therefore the really acknowledged kings. And Judah's rule was already put forth by Yaakov. Yaakov, of course, the poem probably is coming after the reality of the tribes is already there. But we're going to connect Nachshon with Yehuda with the kingship. And so we have, first of all, the bracha in Bereshit, and as well, the similar statement coming already from the end of the Tanakh from Chronicles. Go ahead.
There was a tradition in the hand of the tribe of Judah, their sages, and their prominent leaders from Jacob, our patriarch, regarding everything that is destined to befall each tribe until the Messianic era. Likewise, there was a tradition in the hand of each and every tribe regarding what would befall it until the Messianic era, from Jacob, their father.
Yeah, we've looked at some of those midrashim that Jacob wanted to reveal to them the end of times, which in the Pshat is like the future. But for our Sages that become Kates Hayamin, literally the end of days, the Messianic era. So there's a great deal of Messianic speculation that comes within the words of Yaakov within the bracha to his children. And going on,
Vic Corbano, he presented the dish and the basin corresponding to the kings of the house of David, who are destined to emerge from him, who ruled over the entire world, over the sea, and over the land. For example, Solomon and the Messianic king. Solomon, from where it is derived, it is
yeah,
a,
how do we know that Solomon, ruled over the entire world?
it is, you want me to continue or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. It is as is it is written. For he ruled over, there's like an echo. I don't know who it's.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Okay. For he ruled,
Did somebody have a phone on
No.
other than the one you're using? Okay.
all right. For he ruled over the entire region beyond the river from Tzisfa to Gaza. Uh,
Kipsach.
Yeah.
Shmuel 1 said Tifsach is at one end of the world and Gaza is at the other end of the world. One said they stand adjacent to one another, just as he ruled over Tzipsach and over Gaza. So he ruled over the entire world.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of a difficult phrase to derive from it that Solomon ruled over the entire world. But, they offer their explanations. Rav and Shmuel, common pairing in the Talmud. Rav said, one is at one end, one at the other.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
And it says, all the world sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom. Each would bring his tribute.
Yeah,
From
so here we
where,
have another thing that hints at the fact that Solomon had, at the very least, influence over the entire world. If everyone's bringing him tribute, everyone sought his wisdom. Go on.
um, let's see, where am I?
No,
For
no,
about what?
don't forget.
From where is it derived?
Oh,
After the reference from Kings.
oh, there it is. From where it is derived that he ruled over the sea, it is as it is written, also the fleet of Hiram, which had carried gold from Ophir. I, from one king.
From First Kings,
Yeah.
yeah.
For the king had a fleet of Tarshish at the sea with the fleet of Hiram once every 3 years. And
Etc.
it's,
There were close relationships between Hiram, king of Tyre, and Melech Shlomo, and Shlomo drew on Hiram for the building of the Beit Hamikdash.
and
Okay.
it says, I will set his hand upon the seas, his right on the rivers.
Yeah, so they're taking that verse from Psalms as referring to Shlomo.
Right.
So here, they're going beyond this particular Nesi'im. They're saying, okay, it's kingly, if you will, coming from Nachshon, but actually there are some specific references to the kings of Judah. Go on.
The messianic king from where it is derived. It is, as it is written, he will rule from sea to sea, from the river to the ends of the land, over the land from where it is derived. It is as it is written, and all the kings, all the nations will bow to him, will serve him. And it says, and behold, among the clouds of the heavens, of the heavens, to him was given dominion, honor, and kingship, and all the peoples, nations, and languages would serve him.
Yeah, so all these verses are connected to Melech HaMashiach. I thought it was appropriate that we had a verse from Daniel because Daniel was probably written at the time of the Maccabees.
Mm.
So, and also this, and to him was given dominion, honor, kingship, and all the nations and languages, etc. That was also very much part of messianic speculation in the post-biblical world and into the first century. We see it reflected in some of the writings of the Dead Sea Scrolls and in some of the writings in the New Testament. So it was, of course, both of those groups emerged from Judaism, so not shocking that they would pick up on what was already messianic material. And now here they're going to get into, the specifics of the offerings. What are the specific offerings? Why these specific offerings? What do they represent? It can't just be, well, of course, we would say they brought bulls and rams and flour, all this and incense. They normally brought those things as gifts to the temple. And the numbers are arbitrary. No, there's specific symbolism between all of this.
One of the parshanim that you brought in above made the point that for the miluim, which is what we're seeing here, is that they bring the entire package of korbanot, everything that possibly could be brought, except the asham. And in other words, this is the full house. Which I think is absolutely correct, and basically that opens up the midrash to have a field day.
Oh yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. Because as you start reading through all the things they bring, well, there's nothing else. And also I mean, in greater detail, not that I use it all that often, but the stone chumash, the art scroll
You don't have
chumash.
to apologize for using the
Yeah,
stone.
no, I don't apologize for using it. They've got some really good stuff in there. They go through all the different meanings, of the amounts, why this, why that. So it's a fun read.
One young bull corresponding to Abraham, who was the primary progenitor
Progenitor. In other words, he was the first ancestor.
and who, in his regard, it is stated, Abraham ran to the cattle and he took a young bull.
Yeah, that's when he's offering food to the strangers that come to his tent. So we got the word bull. Okay. Then
One
that's obviously got to be a reference to Avraham.
one ram, this is Isaac, as it is in his regard, it is stated, he took the ram and he offered it up as a burnt offering in place of his son.
Yeah. Vayar v'hinei achar v'hinei ayel achar ne'achaz basfach bekarnav. Difficult phrase, but basically Avraham sees the ram that's caught in the thicket, and that's offered instead of Isaac. So, he's talking about a ram. That's reference to Yitzchak. So we've got Avraham, we've got Yitzchak.
And one sheep corresponding to Jacob, in whose regard it is stated, Jacob separated the sheep.
We remember last week's parasha, no, 2 weeks ago, the parasha where Yaakov sets up this whole situation where he ends up with most of the sheep from Laban's flock.
This particular idea of using named animals to give Yavot is one that goes back as far as Vayikra Rabbah, which is about 800 years before Bamidbar Rabbah, on the verse Shoro Chesavo Eish Ki Valed, which is the verse is the first line of Torah reading for the first 2 days of Sukkot, as well as the first day of Pesach. And they sure represents Abraham the Kev, the same exact deal. In other words, the idea of using a list of animals to represent the Yavot is a pretty ancient idea. By the way, the Sifra does not do that. Because the Sifra is 200 years early and still considers, Vayikra Rabbah is more interested in the agadic possibilities of the text. The Sifra basically still discuss the halachic possibilities because they still think the Beit HaMikdash might get yet rebuilt. Vayikra Rabbah has given up. This isn't my own. I got this from who's the one? Mark Galiot, who wrote the critical edition of Vayikra
Rabbah.
Yeah, that's where I got it.
Yeah. I mean, and also we could the early midrashim, Mechilta, the two versions, Mechilta de Rabbi Yishmael and Mechilta de Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the Sifra on Vayikra, and Sifrei on Bamidbar and on excuse me, on Numbers and on Deuteronomy. They're called appropriately the Tannaitic midrashim because they're basically from the period of the Mishnah that and Tosefta, the period of the early rabbis known as Tanaim. But they're sometimes also called the halachic midrashim because they are commentaries on the books that contain law codes. And very often, though not always, very often the concern is just the halacha, in particular in Sifra, which makes sense since Sefer Vayikra is essentially all law anyway. Okay, go on.
One goat as a sin offering, corresponding to Judah, who brought Joseph's fine tunic that he had immersed in the blood of the goat. As it is stated, they slaughtered a goat and they dipped the tunic in the blood.
This one doesn't make Yehuda look so good.
No.
No. Yeah, and but it's interesting because they also show that he gets his comeuppance.
Right.
Wonderful literary
Richly
awareness
deserved.
here. Go on.
Judah brought it to his father and said, identify this, please. Is it your son's tunic? That is, why it was meted to
Meted
him,
to him.
yeah, meted to him with the same measure as Tamar said to him, identify, please, whose signet, belt, and the staff are these?
Remember that Tamar deceives her father-in-law, and it's the same word, hakerna. Identify, please. So,
It's
and
very, very nice from a puppy because I just see now, but Midbar Rav is going to darshan every one of those goats for the atonement of sin as an atonement of something that had to do with that particular tribe. So the
yeah,
next
so
coming Issachar is known for teaching Torah. So what's that for? In order to show that anybody who wants to can come listen to Torah. Anyway, I just happened to look at the next one. I'm sure if they do it there, they're going to keep on doing it.
yeah. I mean, I just didn't bring it all in because I mean, you could
Oh, of
just
course
look
you
at this
did.
one entire section,
I
which
didn't
is
know this until you
fascinating.
presented it.
And but I just love the fact that they're already picking up on a very clear literary connection. And of course, the scholars who have studied the Jacob Joseph stories from a literary perspective constantly identify. And it's also, by the way, goats. They dip the tunic in goat's blood. Yaakov wears goat skins so it just so many connections. It just is apparent. Anyway, go on.
And that is why sin offering is stated in this regard, as they brought it as atonement for him because he brought anguish to his father.
Yeah, so they can again continue to the specific sins. Then they even go on with the shlamim. With some Carol, do you think you can read, or is it just too hard?
Yeah, I gotta skip it.
Okay,
Our cup.
I'll finish
going
this.
shall unless Ricky, you want to go back to reading?
And no, I'll finish it.
Okay,
For the peace offering, ha shalimim,
Hashlamim.
2 cattle. These are David and Solomon. As they initiated the monarchy as cattle is nothing other than the expression of monarchy, just as it says, butter of cattle and milk of sheep.
Yeah, this is in the bracha at the end of not the bracha, but section at the end of Deuteronomy, where they're talking about the monarchy, and they say Chamata Bakar v'chelev Elim.
And
So
we translated, give them the plunder of the kings, because they were full-fledged, righteous men, and in their days. Israel were flawless, mushlamim,
yeah,
and
punning on Shlamim, Shalem,
in the days of Solomon, the kingdom was complete.
Shalema.
Shalom goes
Lema
with Solomon's
as
name.
is
Yeah, exactly.
Shlema, as it is stated, Solomon sat on the throne of Hashem. Two of them built the temple. David made the foundation. Solomon built it. Five
Okay,
rooms,
so again, why do we have
goats.
Shlamim? That's a reference to David and Shlomo. Of course, it's within his yet he just mentioned, and I'm surprised they didn't bring that here. It's in Shlomo's name. I mean,
This is
Shalem,
really
Shlomo.
terrific, Rabbi Popke. For Yisachar, who comes next, but Karshneim represents this Yisachar's the Torah. The
Ah,
Torah Shabbat Pen, the Torah Shabbat.
Marsha Biktav, that's great.
I've never sat down and done this whole thing because
Yeah,
it's just so huge. But now that you brought this in, I'm definitely going to do it.
yeah. I mean, I didn't realize this was just so, and that's why I called this. Well, let's finish this up because
Five
we're running late.
rams, five goats, five sheep in their first year. These are the 15 corresponding to the 15 kings who were from
Rechavam.
Avam until uh, Zedekiah, king's son of a king. Some were full-fledged righteous men, some were middling, and some were full-fledged wicked men. This was the offering of Nachshon, son of Amminadab.
Yeah, again, the black is the our parasha,
Yeah.
or at least the parasha of Hanukkah.
When
So
the
they're
blessed
commenting on this verse now.
When the Blessed Holy One saw that he presented his offering corresponding to the order of the patriarchs in the royal dynasty, he began lauding his offering. This was the offering of Nachshon, son of Amminadab.
Yeah, so it's basically saying this was the offering of Nachshon ben Aminadav. He recognized, all of Jewish history. So as Yehudi mentioned, there's so much more, so much. Some of these I just took small pieces. There's just tons, and it's fascinating, how they can always connect things with earlier time periods, with later time periods. They just Maseh Avot Siman Lebanim. The actions of the ancestors are a sign for the children. They often, in the Midrash and elsewhere in Jewish tradition, present the entirety of Jewish history, that that the same things kind of happen, that there's a continuity between all the experiences of Israel. And here, again, reading what is potentially an exceedingly boring section. Every Nasi, every prince bringing the same offering. But the rabbis are able to spice it up by saying, aha, it looks like the same old thing, but it's really not. There is symbolic significance. There is meaning, different meanings behind all of these things. And it's also really quite a wonderful teaching tool, because as you're teaching one story, you can make reference to all the others.
That was, I think we should mention that one of the points here is that not one Nasi wanted to basically outdo the other one.
Mhm.
That I've always said from the shop point of view, shows that at one point, at that particular point, the Jewish people were unified, and everybody exactly wanted to be the same, and nobody wanted to outshine somebody else, and that's why they proceed to tell you each one in loving detail, one by one, just to make the point that everybody basically saw themselves as being exactly the same as the next one. That's my take on it.
Well, yeah, I think that has been a dominant perspective throughout Jewish tradition.
Oh, I didn't know that, Rabbi Pop. Yeah,
Well,
but
I don't know if it's dominant, but certainly in sermons. I mean, if you read books of
oh,
sermons,
that's
you
different.
look at that. I mean, it's all over the place, and
Okay.
that's how I was raised thinking about this. And I can think of my teachers who made that point. So, and it is. I mean, and I think even going back to
You know
Nachum
what?
Leibowitz's comment
Okay.
I have
that,
to go. I'll see you on
okay,
Shabbat.
yeah, take care. I've got to go too.
Sorry
But
about that.
yeah, there's just a lot of richness here. And as I
My
said at the very
Pavrutas here.
beginning, I titled this Matanot Nesi'im Parshanut Darshanit Ashira. So, Kol Tuv, everybody. Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in show.
Yep.
Okay.